Back in May of 2019, I performed this experiment.
This is my egg. This is my parts per million counter. This is going to measure the parts per million of both these fluids. This is tap water, regular tap water. That is the same tap water, but it's been preloaded to save some time with some salt from this to give it a density variation. It's going to measure the density of the tap water. Okay, that's coming in at 212 parts per million tap water. Don't know what that means. It's just a number. It could be unicorn farts. It's just a number. 208. Yeah, it's about 200. Then this one's about 300. That tells me that there is a density variation between the two. So what we're going to do is we're going to see what happens when this egg is dropped into here. It sinks and it's touching the floor. Now we'll see what happens when we put it into a more dense medium. This is just normal table salt from your favourite supermarket. What I'm now going to try and prove is that if I change the density of the medium, I will cause the effect by adding salt. All we need to do is pour some of this in. Hey, what do you know? The eggs immediately moved. Didn't have to wait for that, did we? So the density's reading around about 309, 308, 309. But I've just made the egg move. So what's the cause? Well, scientific method states that the independent variable is the presumed cause, and I presumed that changing the density of the liquid with salt would cause a displacement. Newton's first law of motion states that every object will remain at rest unless acted upon by a force, and I've obviously created a force. The density of the medium has displaced the egg. The egg moved. That's an accelerating mass. So therefore, Newton states that there is a force. I caused it with this. So in scientific method, the cause of the displacement is this. I've caused it. I've manipulated it. I added the salt. It caused something. I did it. I'm within scientific method. But if you're going to infer that gravity in any way whatsoever did something in this test, unfortunately you are working outside of scientific method. You're practicing pseudoscience.
I complied with scientific method. Its purpose was to demonstrate to blurthers that if you think that gravity exists, it can never be demonstrated within scientific method because you can't manipulate gravity. It just pervades. At no point did I ever consider that it would ever be needed to be used against somebody on our side, because it's so intrinsically obvious that scientific method supports flat Earth that I never really considered it would ever be used in the way that I'm about to use it. I'm now going to play two small clips from a recent Globebusters discussion, where I'm going to use the words of Bob Knodel against him personally.
The thing that troubles me, and I think the thing that really triggers me, is that, you know, we have tried our very best to come out and have honest discussions about this. And it's like, if you are not in one camp or the other, then, you know, and I can...
This is a lie by Bob. I've spoke with Jevon about relative density disequilibrium twice. I've spoke to Bob. None. Bob continuously misrepresents the relative density argument as density and buoyancy. You can't do that. Buoyancy's got little g in the maths, and that affirms the idea that gravity is a force. Well, we know gravity is not a force, but Bob deliberately misrepresents the argument as density and buoyancy, yet here you hear him claiming that he has tried his best to have an open conversation. Yet he's never ever spoke to me or played the video on Globebusters to demonstrate or converse about the topic. He actively shies away from it, and we both know why. Bob cannot get past the definition of the independent variable.
What is it that is causing that initial acceleration in the first place? And as I've said a million times, it is an axiomatic law of physics that I have never been able to disprove, that when there is an acceleration, there must be a force present.
So, first off, axiomatic is not a word to describe what goes on with regards to objects that fall, because it is not self-evident what is actually going on. It's beyond the perception of sight. The mechanism that does it is not within the sight. It can only be in one of the other senses, if it's there at all. Then we have 3 points, and ultimately this is what this video is about. Number 1, Bob, you lie about being open to the discussion. You will not have this discussion, because we all know that you will not accept scientific method, because it restricts what you can pontificate about, and it is a problem for you. Number 2, you misrepresent the counter as density buoyancy to confuse people. Nobody uses the word density buoyancy to describe this anymore. It's not been like that for ages, but you do, and that's only done to confuse people. Relative density is the description, Bob. Please use that in future. And number 3, Bob will not accept the definition of the independent variable, because it stops him pontificating around the demonstration in your fairy suit and your magic wand of pseudoscience. Because if you do accept scientific method and you do accept the definition for independent variable, it rules out and excludes your notion that the magic beans do something. So yes, that does make you a shill. You ignore it, you misrepresent it, you just do anything to discredit it, you swerve it as much and as easy as you can at all times. It's never been on Globebusters, has it? It's not me with sour grapes, Bob. I'm just demonstrating that in all the time that video's been out, you ignore it. Why? Because it fucks your ideas, Bob. You're fucked, buddy. I've kept my mouth shut for the longest of time listening to your bullshit, and I'm tired of the bullshit that you spew into people, because it's lies. You are a shill, Bob. You push disinformation. Here is your opportunity to have the discussion that you claim that you're open to. But we all know that you're not really, and we all know that you won't. So I'll just claim victory now.